How can a multi-channel telecommunications consultancy refine its ideal client profile? How does a multi-channel telecommunications consultancy refine its ideal client profile? That's a fantastic question. So, consulting firm in and around telecommunications, and they're concerned that their ideal client profile isn't cutting it anymore. And the way that they're going to find that it isn't cutting it anymore is it's probably a combination of financial metrics around revenue and profitability, maybe average sales cycle length, margin, and it may be a combination of customer satisfaction, net promoter score type of metrics as well. And it may be that the ideal client profile was perfect for the last 3, 4, 5 years. And then all of a sudden, there's something new that's coming in the marketplace from a competitive standpoint, and your company needs to adjust and pivot and reinvent itself to stay relevant. So refining, updating, rebranding, all of that when it comes to your ideal client profile is really where do you think, based on your company's current roadmap and short-term future roadmap, where do you believe you're going to be most successful? Where historically have you done well? And with the product and services investments that you're currently making to be able to deliver services in the coming months and in the next few years, where do you believe you're going to be most successful? What is your target that you're going after? Because an ideal client profile usually starts by defining a geographic factor. Are you able to sell these telecommunications consulting services globally? Are they relevant to a particular region like North America or EMEA or APAC or something like that? There perhaps a cluster of countries that you're going to target. Like maybe, for example, you're targeting France, Italy, and Spain or something like that. Or maybe you're targeting the US, Canada, and Mexico or something. Or maybe you're targeting most countries in South America, but not Brazil for whatever reason, maybe because of language differences. But either way, first get your mind around what your addressable market, your total addressable market or TAM is going to be based on where you believe you can be most successful with your clients in the coming months and in the coming years. Once you have the geographic factors under control, I would next lean into company size, where you believe you can be most successful. Historically, where have you had the most success with your telecommunications consulting services? Has it been with small and medium-sized businesses? Has it been with mid-market? Has it been with enterprise? Now, bear in mind that in the same way, you really need to take your geographic factors and spend some time in LinkedIn or LinkedIn Sales Navigator and make sure that you're tight enough around your definitions as LinkedIn is. I would do the same thing with your company size bands. In other words, there are quite a few different opinions as to where the top of SMB, small and medium-sized business, stops and where mid-market starts. And there's quite a few different opinions too on where the top of mid-market stops and where enterprise truly starts. So, of course, in the data center industry, people talk about square footage meters, as well as the power capacity, the megawatts, potentially gigawatts down the road, or if we're going back in time a little bit, kilowatts. Sure, the space, the physical space and the power definitely makes a difference, but you're not going to be able to target in LinkedIn by client megawatt requirements or square footage requirements. You're going to be targeting based on a company size. So sure, you can add some of those additional factors if it's relevant to your particular business model. In the case of telecommunications, it probably isn't. It's probably focused more on telecommunication specific qualifiers as opposed to co-location or wholesale data center type of qualifiers. But maybe it has to do with something that you're looking for with interconnections. Maybe it has to do with something that has to do with the number of carriers that are in their meet me room, or their approach to carrier neutrality or something along those lines. But either way, your ICP should have a geographic component. It should have a company size component. There's probably some business model or industry factors that are especially relevant. And another thing that you're probably, especially when you're selling professional services like consulting, is your roadmap is going to be very heavily dependent on your internal talents. Because of course you're going to productize to a certain degree what you're doing, and you're going to develop your SOPs, your processes to be able to deliver the same consistent results all the time. But at the end of the day, you can only deliver consulting services as well as your internal talent allows you to do so. So this may be more dynamic over time than you may have been thinking initially because of the nature of that factor as well. But once you've defined the geography, the company size, the nature of the business models, the nature of the industries that you're targeting, and recognize that a lot of the success factors will depend on your talent attraction and talent retention, then it's a matter of understanding that in today's journey, most of your buyers are preferring a self-propelled research and decision-making process where they'll meet with someone from your sales team, but they're going to be very, very deep into the journey before they do so. Gartner says typically the journey will be about 83% over before any vendor contact. So in order for you to get in early and often with the right people in the right places at the right time, and most of all, in the right context, so that you and your team are seen as the go-to experts when it comes to multi-channel telecommunications, that thought leadership, the approach to consulting, subject matter expertise, teaching, trusted advisor is incredibly important. So once you have the ICP under control, define your buyer personas, figure out what your primary and secondary buyer persona's biggest goals and challenges are, and really invest aggressively in creating amazingly helpful, remarkable content and events experiences that help your most important buyer personas do well on their jobs, do well in their careers, advance their careers, because you've seen the pattern recognition of what they need to do to be successful, not just at step 1, 2, 3, because you know what it takes for them to get through the whole journey, the whole life cycle. A typical buyer's journey now may have as many as 28 touch points between complete stranger and purchase decisions. So if you want to be successful, you can't just show up every once in a while in awareness and consideration and keep your fingers crossed and hope and pray that you're going to be on the short list. You need more than that. There's 28 touch points. So the better job you can do with recognizing that reality and showing up in as many of those 28 touch points throughout the full buyer's journey, the better off you're going to be. So when you do that right, you're nearly guaranteed to be on the short list. When you do that at an elite world-class level, in certain situations, you may do such a phenomenal job, and your best prospects, your clients, may be spending so much time with your subject matter experts and thought leaders that you may have neutralized all or nearly all of the competitive factors. So by the time they're in market, so that by the time they're at the decision stage, it's a super natural conversation because they're using your educational content resources to define their whole methodology, every way, shape, or form that they evaluate the competitive options that are in front of them. And you'll know this is working because you go meet a prospect for the first time and they are literally quoting your content. They're quoting your research report. They're quoting things they learned at your webinar as if they went and they took a certificate program at an Ivy League business school or something like that. So when you're able to, or as if you're one of the big research firms that are commanding tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands a year, or your local currency equivalent for that kind of research. When you have that kind of impact on prospects, that's when all the good stuff starts to happen. If you bury your head in the sand and pretend like this doesn't exist and say that our prospects are different, they don't care about things like smartphones and comparison review websites, and they would never watch a YouTube video or listen to a podcast or go to a webinar. They buy the old-fashioned way. They're going to use their fax modem. They're going to use their dial-up. They're going to look you up in the phone book. They're going to read the newspaper in the driveway. They're going to wait until the next issue of the trade publication comes with their annual forecast guide. All of these things that we now know, unfortunately, belong in the museum of how people used to research and make considered IT purchase decisions. So if you want to operate in today's reality, those are the things to be thinking about when it comes to refining your ideal client profile, refining your ICP in and around multi-channel telecommunication consulting services.